a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality. Feeling good, feeling great.
Anna, Klint, welcome to the show. It is so nice to speak with you, darling. How are you?
I am so happy to be here. I'm so excited. I'm so on the edge of my seat because who knows what the fuck is going to happen with you.
I know. And that's what you sign up for, and the audience as well. It's just kind of like a shit show that is not that shit show-y, It's not, we're on the rails-ish. We've at least got a direction that we're going, though it meanders. And I love that, and you're on board with this. I love this. All the ways to find your website going to be located down below, guys. Love and liberation, what we're talking about today, post-traumatic liberation, the healing trap, something called psycho-spiritual energetic healing, and pathologicalness. We're going to talk about pathology, all kinds of stuff, guys. So, Anna, first of all, you have my heart. You're a dear, dear friend and a connection through Emily Trinkus, who we will shout out now. Thank you, Emily. Shout out.
Emily!
There you go. She got a Howard Dean. Thank you, Emily. And we connected because I was balls deep in the middle of something dark called the dark night of the soul is what it's referred to as. I think the Muggles call it their midlife crisis, but I think crisis is a bit of a soft word for it. We're going to get into it. But you and I connected over something very, very dark. And I feel on the other side of this, as you have been alchemizing so many dark nights of the soul, plural, then you go through these experiences, you get different. In a big way. And it's something that you're not sure if you appreciate the process, but you can't argue with the results. And so you and I are going to talk a little bit more about this because, again, we met over some dark shit. Our first conversation, I think I was just in it hard.
You were.
And so anyway, guys, this is where we are with this. Mental health has been a massive, massive topic of conversation, not something to be swept under the rug. This world presents you a lot of things. SSRIs, alcohol, and the like. But if you go a different route and you actually face those demons that your subconscious put up for you and childhood traumas and all kinds of good stuff, you've got an awesome opportunity to experience something really, really, really interesting. And you've got a beautiful perspective on it. And like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I came and stayed with you 2 nights, one night on the way up through the trip and one night back. And you and your beautiful dog hosted me wonderfully and you cooked for me. And you're just so special, dude. Just thank you so much for being you.
Thank you. And thanks for gracing us with your visit and your presence and just your enthusiasm for life where you're at right now. It's just really inspiring. And I'm so happy to see the turnaround from the first conversation I had with you versus that trip when I just saw you a few weeks back, whenever it was, a month or so. I don't even know when it was.
A few weeks. Yeah. About a month now. Yeah. And that's flying too, right? The quickening time is hauling ass. And we'll probably bring that up.
Totally.
But you're just so beautiful and special. If you don't mind, for the audience's sake, let them get to know you a little bit better,
Like who I am in the world?
Yeah, just kind of sprinkle some you in this,
Totally. I live in northern New Mexico. I'm a New Mexico native. I've lived all over. I went to art school and got a really useless art degree that totally informed the way that I see the world. It's not useless at all, but I don't really use my art degree. But it was a transformational learning experience. I am, a 3-time underworld champion of the dark night of the soul. And that doesn't include any of my childhood dark nights. That's just in adulthood. So I know a thing or two about the dark night experience, also having, started them unconsciously and now transiting through them with a lot more consciousness. But that's always a work in progress as well. Yeah. So I'm a creative. I love nature. I love walking with my sweet little doggy. I'm a pretty simple person. And to know anything about me, you got to see it firsthand anyone that comes to my home, I love to cook them a meal and just make you feel welcome and just make you feel loved and cared for. And my whole thing is love. Like, I don't know. I really like love.
You exude it, and you're so warm and welcoming. It was so sweet and so wonderful what you did. Like I said, you cooked for me, you informed me of some squash that I'd never even fucking heard of, and you broke it down, and I was like, this is amazing. And your beautiful one-eyed dog that you rescued. And we went on these incredible walks around your property and just where you live, and just a magical experience. Like I said, it's just interesting to connect with somebody so warm and to really feel the warmth. But you've been through some shit, and that's why you're so kind, and to still choose that rather than to go the villain route and sort of just burn it all to the ground, which I empathize with that. I'm sure that you and I have been through enough of those phases, but it's interesting the other side of this, because I don't know if you can empathize with this, but the Dark Knight to me just got boring. I got I got bored. I was like, is this all there is? I thought there was gonna be like monsters and shit, but it's all in my head. I was like, hang on. I was like, that's just a dickhead. Is this it? And I don't know what I thought, because I'm not contacted by aliens or anything like that I'm consciously aware of, blah, blah, blah. And so it just got boring to me. And so that was it. I was just like, okay. Kind of like a tantrum, I guess. You just get plumb tuckered and you just stand up and you go, all right, I'll just go play on the jungle gym or something.
Yeah, actually, that's like a real phenomenon in the Dark Knight. I mean, I haven't heard other people talk about it exactly that way, about getting bored per se. But I think like what I have experienced and what I've heard a lot of other people experience is at a certain point, you have to simply surrender completely to it and you stop fighting it. And it's like, I just felt myself like clawing the edges of the tunnel on the way down, like just fighting. This sucks. This is so hard. Fuck this. This is terrible. I wish this wasn't happening. And finally, like you get so exhausted, or in your case, bored, and you're just like, ugh. And then you drop, and then you realize that there's a trampoline at the bottom, and you're like, oh, okay. Which is not to say that it's linear like that. Like, oh, you drop and then you're done. Boom. That's not reality. But this idea of like fighting the descent so hardcore, because our culture, like you said, we don't have language for dark mental health periods in your life. You go and medicate that shit. You go and drink that shit away. You go and do whatever, shop, sex, gamble, cut yourself, like whatever the things are. That's how you deal with the darkness. And so we don't have a framework for talking about letting go into it. And like you said, meeting it fully. And that's scary as hell to meet this stuff fully when you're talking about suicidal ideation, when you're talking about self-annihilation, when you're talking about, I have no hope or desire to get out of bed today, and you want me to meet this? You can go F yourself. And yet that's exactly what we're being asked for.
Yeah, it's your most vulnerable time when you feel the weakest, yet you are required the most strength.
Absolutely.
And it's astrological, probably. It's marked astrological at least. And so this is the other interesting part, is you're not blinded by it if you're, seeing the signs, right? Like I said, some people, go run away with their secretary, go get the Viper. Remember the Viper, that car in the 90s that everybody wanted from it? And they go get one of those things and they go, quit their law practice, start doing blow and all that kind of stuff. And that's a way to go. But like you said, your metaphor of falling down the tunnel, I love that, because it's like that hands tunnel in the labyrinth. Remember that? When they're a bunch of hands and then they form faces, and that's what that feels like. But it is more of a drop, like a descent, and you can feel gravity not only pulling against you, but pulling you down harder than gravity would, than your weight would allow, right? And it can be terrifying, and honestly it is, but it's meant to be, because it's pulling all this nasty shit off of you. What did you feel when you, let's say, got through a tunnel and you could feel the difference in energy from just being absolutely scared of something, and then the result of the energy afterwards when you glanced back? What did you see?
That's a great question. So one, it's a very alchemical process. So you are really being changed by it at a molecular level, I believe. So I want to answer this question from the context of the 3 different dark nights that I've experienced. So like the first one, I was in my 20s and I had gone to welding school. I wanted to be a badass female welder chick, like making huge sculptures. That was my whole identity. Car crash, trashed my neck, couldn't wear the welding hood anymore. and was like, dang, I just have been like spending a couple of years and like this has been my focus and my goal and this is everything to me. And I'm in my 20s and I don't have a lot of tools and skills and I'm not very conscious. I was not conscious at all, really. Well, I was a little conscious. And just met it with like pure victim mindset mentality. Why did this happen to me? Why me? Poor me. I can't have what I want, which is, of course, a childhood story, right? This ongoing childhood story. I don't get to have what I want. Everybody else does, but not me. And, was diagnosed with fibromyalgia from that. And the doctor said, sorry, this is as good as you're going to get. We're not going to be able to get your body back to the way it was. You're going to be limited for the rest of your life. And I internalized all of that and I took it as truth and I went on with my life and I did the best that I could. Well, fast forward, I'm 40 and I'm driving myself into the ground and I'm just trying to make my art career happen. I'm making it happen and I'm doing great things and but it's never enough and it's never good enough. And I just can't get everything right and perfect. And I crash so hard to the point where I stopped sleeping for like, I don't even know how long, weeks, months, got so super, super depressed. Body hurt so bad. Everything was chaos. And this time I said, there's something else going on here. This is, and I thought it was a physical crisis, and it was, but it was really a spiritual crisis. I was really being asked to look at myself really critically, but not in a judging way, but in an honest way. Who have I been? How do I love myself? How do I care for myself? How do I nurture myself? How do I outsource all of my needs to everyone around me? And everything around me, including my art career, was my need to like have a little pat on the back and get some validation and get love and appreciation. Oh, you're so smart and you're so clever and you're so good. It's like I needed to give that to myself. And I realized it. And that was where I learned and I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought. And then I was like, I can't anymore. I literally can't. And I remember sobbing on the floor. I lived in this live-work space in Oakland with my then husband, and he was upstairs working from home. And I'm in the little landing of our laundry area, sobbing quietly because I don't want him to hear how distraught I am. And I was sobbing to myself day after day, literally face down on the floor because I was like, God, whatever. And I have a huge God wound. So for me to say God was like, you're desperate. God, I can't do this anymore. Show me. And that was me just like letting go of the scrap, like the clawing the edges and letting go. And did I bounce right back up? No, it was years. It was years after that point of just letting go. But the things that I learned in that about how I was outsourcing all of my needs, did I get that 100% correct? No, because I got a third time to look at how I was outsourcing my needs. Oh, the universe just, I saw a meme like in the last couple of years. It was like, I don't make the same mistake once or twice. I make it 4 or 5 times just to make sure.
Just to make sure. You got to, are we certain?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, let's take this lesson one more time. But there was a real refinement in how I was meeting my own needs and coming into myself and being more personally responsible for my own experience and just generally saying, God, I have all this love for everybody else and everything else. Like there's like not even 5% coming back to me. And so that's when I started shifting and seeing, okay, there's a purpose to this dark night of the soul. Like this is not to torture me. This is to expand me. This is to help me in terms, if we think of it in terms of alchemy. I wasn't going to alchemize that on my own. I could have made those choices to treat myself, more better, to use proper use of English.
Nailed it. Thank you. You speak good.
Thanks. Thanks so much. But I didn't make those choices outside of the pressure chamber of the dark night experience. And then, and so now when I had the third one, it was like full on, all right, I'm in it. And it was completely corresponding with, well, one, husband said he didn't want to be married anymore on solar eclipse in Taurus, which is my rising sign. So it's all about me, who I am. Like a huge, like, boom, it couldn't have been more literal reset, like eclipse on the new moon in your first house was like, holy cow. And then the day after, basically my Chiron return started, which is the midlife awakening. And then, like a year, 2 years later, my Pluto square moon started happening while I'm still in my Chiron return. So I'm in it astrologically, but the difference is that now I see the code for it. I can see, yes, there's a descent. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's dark. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what's going to happen on the other side. Don't fight it. Don't waste your energy. Keep that energy inside of yourself as much as possible so that you can use it to regenerate.
You're going to need it. And what's funny is I started a workout routine. I started getting buff, dear. And that's not something I'd really been about since high school, right? And so I started getting buff and I started doing my things and I worked out for, I think it was 46 days straight, 45 days straight, something like that, over a month. And then Dark Night really kicked in. And so what was funny is it's like I've stacked my body up for not eating days on end, for it had something to feed itself. It was just interesting. It's so interesting. And then a pipe burst in the house, which has to do with hidden things. And it's just everything just pop, 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 pop. Everything worked out perfectly. And exactly to what you said, the descent is measurable. It's terrifying. Don't fight it. But I don't know if could you have heeded that advice if you were given it?
If I had never had the Dark Night experience and someone said, don't fight it, just let yourself drop into that dark pool, that dark cesspool of unknowingness and fear and pain, I probably would have told them to go F themselves. Or just looked at them like, I understand all those words, but I do not know what they mean when you string them together.
Are you talking to the person behind me? What are you doing?
Exactly. Because you don't have a context for it. It took me the third time to be like, oh, I know what this is. Yeah. I get this. And does it mean that I didn't struggle? No, of course I still struggled with it. I still fought against it. I still, had the moments of, I can't do this again. Not again. And yet that's not what was in store for me.
But my God, look at you though. And you mentioned Chiron. Chiron's of course the wounded healer. And so that takes care of your ability to be empathetic to others and, speak about these dark things as if, and we joke about them now, darling. You get to the deep shit. You looked at the edge. You said, yeah, the most self-love thing I can do is check out. Let's go. I'm a couple of thoughts, away. And you just don't. And there was a part there I was living for spite, and people have heard me talk about this, but there was some in my head going, fucking do it, you pussy. And I was just like, no, just to prove you wrong, you cunt. And it began like that. And then there was a deeper dialogue with something, and that's where the true gift was. And like you said, it's something you were putting off, and especially sobriety, I think, or at least West Coast sobriety as far as it's concerned. California sober is how we go. Quitting all the things, mushrooms, all of that, I think, contributed a whole lot to my ability to listen to the quiet thing in me crying out, hey, dude, we got changes to make because you have a mission that doesn't align with the work you've been doing internally. So let's clean this up so that we can amplify, right? And like you said, it's terrifying, but I will say the advice I can give everybody is you are strong enough. And even if you need to live out of spite, try that out. Because actually it's a good little last fuck you, right? And I highly recommend that because either way, we could talk about recapitulation. If you are going to take yourself out, do it way more calculated. Don't do it in that state because that state will anchor you back to this bitch and probably in a way worse off spot. So if you can sit with those in those moments and just honestly tell yourself, and you can vouch for this too shall pass. It's gonna fucking blow over. And really, she's contactable below. I'm contactable below. If you guys are in any of these spots, you hear my voice, reach out. Okay, we can empathize with you more than you know, and you are strong enough.
For real, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, but that's part of it is not feeling like it's. What is the deal with this? Because it is. I see it now, and that's why I asked when you turn back around and looked, you can see the tunnel you just went through. because you could see it from the other side of it in completion, and you're just like, oh, you can see like the inner workings of the machine. It's almost like from the back of it, it's like a Hollywood set where everything is, you can see how the moving parts worked, and you're like, oh, that's why this led to, oh, and that led in. So again, with this, it is on purpose and it is for a reason. But with this, again, what do you think this is all about? Why do you feel that it's so intense, and why can't we just know this shit and not go through it? Kind of like breathing or our heart beating. We don't have to think about that, right? Those are innate.
Right.
Why can't this just be innate, Anna?
Well, I think this is kind of like what the premise of my philosophy of psychospiritual energetic healing is, or just the psychospiritual realm, is that we are having this physical, physiological, biological experience, and we're also having an unquantifiable, ineffable spiritual experience. And there's an inherent contradiction in that, because the two ways of being are almost incompatible, right? And so I don't know how it is for anybody else, but for me, there was a real physical component to each of the adult dark nights of the soul. My childhood experiences were really, can't even count them because they're kind of beyond my control, and things that happen in my family and blah, blah, blah. But car accident, physical pain, physical destruction of parts of my physicality, at least temporary destruction of parts of my physicality. The second one was adrenal insufficiency and like total collapse. And when your adrenals aren't working, your hormones get really imbalanced. When your hormones are imbalanced, your neurochemistry is unbalanced, depression, anxiety, more fear, all of those things. The third one, also overlapping with menopause. Not a fan. I think menopause is a beautiful rite of passage, but this experience of how menopause interwove with the dissolution of my marriage and the changes in my own physiology as a result of the menopausal passage, and how that affected my brain chemistry. I want to say something right here, because I did not know that this was a thing, even though I have a lot of wise older women in my life. I did not know for women that suicidal ideation is a real part of menopause, because nobody ever told me about that. You hear about anxiety, rage, depression, but suicidal ideation. And I was there sitting on the couch, and I do want to get back to your question, and I might need you to remind me what it was. I was there sitting on the couch at 11 o'clock at night, sobbing my guts out for like the 18th night in a row or something like that. I'm exaggerating. It would come and it would go, and it would come and it would go. But I'm sitting there sobbing probably the third night in a row. I'm 50 years old. I'm trying desperately not to kill myself, because I don't want to make life harder for the people around me. That's the number one and only reason. And then in a flash, I just got the thought, is this menopause? It's kind of like your spite moment. It was like, oh my fucking God, are you fucking kidding me? I have been sitting here not just thinking about killing myself, planning. Each night I'm planning a little bit more, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But I'm like, but if I just did that thing, then I could hang myself right there. And it was like all of a sudden. And so then I just grabbed my computer and I'm like researching menopause suicidal ideation, and all these articles in the UK come up about it. It turns out it's a real major thing. And then I said, I wonder what the suicide rate for women is in America. Look that up, because I'm thinking it's the late teenage years into your early 20s, because that's when I had an extremely difficult time in life. Guess what? It isn't. It's age 45 to 54, the menopausal passage. That's when most women kill themselves in America. How come we're not talking about this as part of this larger dark night of the soul conversation? And what is that suicidal ideation about? It is asking us what part of us needs to die. What part of our life, what part of our bullshit thinking, what part of the way that we treat ourselves, the inauthentic way that we show up in the world, whatever, how we're trading our soul for money, hours for dollars for something that's meaningless. Like whatever the thing is, we all have concessions that we're making. We all have something that we can let go of if we weren't too afraid to do it. And I think this is what the dark night offers us. kind of like forces our hand in a way. Like, guess what? You gave up on your creativity. You gave up on your music. Guess what you're going to fucking do if you want to live, Brandon? You're going to rekindle that and you're going to come home to yourself.
I play every day now. It's so funny you said this. I play every day. I cut the shit out of my finger earlier, and I'm like, shit. Well, I'm still gonna play tomorrow. And it's so. Anna, you are so on this. You answered the question better than I could have thought you would have. Of course, dude. This is so important, and this is why it's so important to talk about. And we can walk through this logically, guys. We'll give you all the concessions on this. So, of course. The UK being a state that pays for healthcare, they would want to offer solutions to that and want to offer advice to minimize the influx of folks going in to take advantage of that system. Now, we don't have that here, so it's all hands on customers, right? So you're going to want to create as much disarray because then you talk about, oh my God, the wet dream of these lizard turds. Oh, great. Now the wife does that. Now the SSRIs for the whole family, right? Now we get everybody on depression drugs. And then, man, the alcohol industry, Budweiser's in there. They're all sitting there talking around a table and they're going, yeah, we're going to do this and roll out the mom just killed herself 6-pack and it'll add a 7th one just for her and you can pour it out. It'll be beautiful. And it's this, oh no. And you can already see,
gross.
You can see it though. You can see it. Think of how they bring up 9/11 all the time, right? Never forget, disgusting. So never forget our ritual, right? It is though so important to talk about because if you're not, then you are stuck in the rut of not being able to move forward and heal yourself from a safe place to grow. And that's what mainly this society that we are changing from, we are offering everybody is a safe place to be the fuck yourself. And what we all are is probably incredibly bipolar, at least. I have some psychology on this because I think that you are given a left brain dominant individual and a right brain dominant individual that sort of have each other's hands. Like the left one has a right hand, right one has a left. And it's like this, and you've got to unify them. The way that I think about my mind now is my mom, when my brother and I used to fight, she made us hold hands in public. Are you familiar with this tactic as a parent to get your family? Yeah. And it was embarrassing as shit. And that was the whole point. Right. But it made us stop fighting. And this is the thing. And then we would giggle because it's silly. And then, it was honestly brilliant. And so I pictured this and my two dudes now holding hands. Right. But if you think about women back in the day trying to report something like this, then they weren't given the support because then you're just tossed into a loony bin, or shock therapy was a big thing back, with my grandmother's era, and she was put through it.
Or you're hysterical.
Exactly. And then even if that, it probably took all they could just to put the lid on it as best they could. And then of course, prescription drugs are there to help. Alcohol, of course, has always been right there by everybody's side to numb that shit. Yeah. It's so interesting because that is what we're turning around to look at, right? We can see the mind control. We can see the society that created us. But I think, again, that society was done that dirty wrong so that we could be produced. Again, another alchemical process. Yeah. It's so important to talk about. And you're offering women this opportunity that they just haven't been given before. And it's beautiful. So what's your advice with this? Do you feel groups are a good idea, communities, being able to speak about this openly in places that are safe to communicate with this about? Because I find that with a lot of us type folks, if you're listening to this, you're probably on the frequency here, then we're not really planted around each other physically. So it is kind of challenging for folks to meet for tea and such. Do you have such a group that you could offer, or are you interested in starting one?
Potentially. I don't have an active group right now in terms of like my offerings, but I'm always open to ideas and collaborations, especially. For me, what got me through this last one was a real hardcore group of women, and I didn't have them here next to me. I was on the phone a lot. And those women, some of them older than me, some of them around the same age, just like really sat with it and really just held space while I would sob, or I would just need to just talk to someone just to get out of my own head. Like, tell me about you and your day, because I was alone by myself. I'm almost all the time working from home by myself all the time. And yeah, the human connection piece cannot be overstated, the importance of it. And yet, like, I know that I'm a recovering lone wolf. And most of the people that are attracted to me in my kind of sphere are the same. Like, it's really challenging to reach out and connect with people because we've got relational wounds that, where we've been betrayed, we've been humiliated, we've been abandoned, we've been whatever. And like, how can I trust again? And so it's challenging to be really vulnerable. So having people that you can have a real honest conversation with and say, this is where I'm at, kind of feel like killing myself today. It's really important. And just people who are going to accept you as you are. Like, there's so much shame for me as like a spiritual teacher and like a, energy healer and someone who's done all this work. I'm using air quotes for everyone who's not going to listen to this, to admit I'm really struggling. I really want to kill myself. It's really induced a lot of shame for me.
And that's what's got to stop. That's the silliness, right? Because that's the part of the authenticity they simply haven't reached yet, or that they're not willing to be honest with themselves about yet. This place is fucking dark at a certain point. And really, you've just been kind of going, oh, everything's fine, treading water on the top of something terrifying, some terrifying fucking ocean. And if you're honest with yourself, there's always something under the water. You feel something nibbling at your feet and you just ignore it and drink it away. And then you're temporarily lifted out of the thing for a little bit while you're drunk. And then, it's back in the thing, and then it's terrifying. So you drink again, you skip out like a flying fish, right? You spend hardly any of your time in the damn thing. But if you really not only dive down in it, but put on a scuba mask and take a look around, it's fucking terrifying. But it happens to be the bulk of the percentage of the world that you live in for a while. And then what you find is those damn demons, how I pictured it was I would hold its hand like my brother, right? I would be holding its hand with one hand and flipping it off with the other. And so it's this like, I'm with you, I respect you, but I like, go fuck yourself kind of thing. But I get it. And then now it's just a complete respect. It's love. It's mutual. And it's very interesting. But man, it took, and what it really feels like is that my defense mechanism grabbed the real me and pushed us apart and said, look, you've got to get me integrated and get me out of here. And so I took a look at this and then took a look at me from his eyes and saw what he saw and was like, holy shit, this has got to change. That's what this is about. That's the Jacob's ladder thing that Howdy Mikowski talked about. It grabs you and turns you 90 degrees. So you look at yourself and that's how you become this Red King metaphor, right? God, what a ride, dude. It's dark there in the middle, man, and it sucks. You did have to go through a few. And now that I'm thinking back, if I can be honest, I've probably had more than the one. This was just the one that I was most self-aware of and not numbing from. Right. And so I felt it, and I'm on my Pluto line, blah, blah, blah. So we have an interesting texture of opportunities to learn and grow here. And it seems like you and I being, we have big missions here and we know this because of how fucked off things have been for us. And that's that Chiron, we can help anybody with anything, honestly. I could take you to hell, but you don't need to. I can get you out of hell too, because I've been there. And honestly, guys, it's fucking boring. The music sucks. Everyone's a dick and it smells weird.
Yeah, the food isn't good at all.
Food sucks, dude. What is this? So what do you feel about pathologization? How do you say that word first of all? And then tell me how you feel about it. I just wrote it down. I can't say it. I can only type it. Right. Pathologization. So
yeah. Okay. So we pathologize everything in our culture. So what's so fascinating and kind of great is like, think back to March 2020. The word trauma, I would love to do like the word mapping and see like how many times was trauma used in January of 2020 versus January of 2021. Like in the global meditation retreat that nobody signed up for, everyone got to study trauma and learn what trauma is. And they also got to learn a lot about borderline personality disorders, not just borderline, but narcissism. Like how many times is the word narcissist used now? Like it's like every other word out of every other place is narcissism. But that's because of the whole shift towards understanding like the whole mental health thing became a real crisis when everyone, surprise, surprise, solitary confinement is actually really not good for human beings. I wonder, yeah,
It's
did we
great
have
for
the data
shadow
on that
work.
already? Yeah, it's exactly. So, and at the beginning of COVID, everyone got to really learn about trauma, and not just people who are in the mental health fields, and not just people like me who are energy healers and who are looking at intergenerational trauma and like how we, carry on the legacies of these coping mechanisms and how harmful they are to us and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, some of us were in that field and we're talking about it, but it became very commonplace now to talk about trauma. Everyone understands what trauma is, or they understand it from the YouTube perspective, let's just say. Okay.
Yeah, from the hashtag trauma.
Exactly. And I think that that's inherently a good thing because it leads to greater self-awareness. But the flip side to that, the dark shadow side of that, is that now everybody is pathologizing every freaking thing about themselves. And it's like, no, like, yeah, you feel anxious because you're about to do something new you've never done before. That's not that you don't need to look that up in the DSM. That's just called anxiety because you're at the edge of your comfort zone and you're going to do something new and you're going to stretch and grow. And it's normal to feel anxious. You don't need a pill. You don't need anything. You need to just notice it, look at yourself in the mirror, talk to yourself, figure out what part of you is so scared, talk to that part, and then go and do the thing. Or don't do the thing, and that's fine too. Like, that's your prerogative. But it's gotten now to the point where everybody is like, I think I have this going on and I have that. Or he's a narcissist, she's a like, we're like, pathologizing everybody. And we don't need to do that.
No, it's a bunch of spiritual hypochondriacs,
Exactly. Totally. So the flips, the good side is this greater awareness of, of the human condition. Yeah, like we're wonky sometimes. Yeah, we don't always make sense. Does that mean that we're disordered? No, we're just complicated and life is messy. And that's okay. And you're okay just as you are.
But Dr. Joe Dispenza told me that I'm like this, and so therefore I'm that. And he told me how to fix it, which I'm not comfortable with and feels weird to me. But I am doing it because I am that, and I do not want to be that. But someone told me that. It's so interesting, right? And healing, I mean, that's a loop, right? That's an interstate highway loop, one of those balls at the circus that you get in with the motorcycle, right? And you can just keep going. You can always heal. I can look at something that pisses me off now if I really think about it and be like, fuck, and then internalize that and let that sour and cytokine release and then need to heal from that. It's what's, because it is like a WebMD. I mean, all you're doing is thumbing through, Dolores Cannon books to get your diagnosis rather than going, I think I have cancer because my thumb hurts. You're just going, shit, I have childhood trauma because I was born on this place. And this is the thing too, this idea that any of us were spared from it. Life is suffering. Buddha figured this out a long time ago. But the choice to continue the suffering, to see it that way, that's where the gift is in enough suffering. Again, it gets fucking boring, guys. It gets old. And I think it needed to get boring for me because also I was very aware of patterns in energy. And I knew that feeling like shit got comfortable after a while. Yes. And I was like, oh shit. And even though I was not doing it for attention, it had nothing to do with this. And quite the opposite, actually. I canceled more during that time than I actually showed up for. And just didn't do this publicly as much as I could. But now from this side of it, I can speak about it. But it was a tricky fucking process, man, walking through all of that. And the integration of it all has been the biggest change ever. And it's so necessary, though, seeing it. I mean, you see it from the other side. It's so important and so vital.
Yeah.
What a place, dude. What a place.
Super.
It's better with you in it, by the way. It really is, because the way you speak on this stuff is just refreshing. It's you and I didn't really talk much about this when we hung out because we were just having fun and doing art and walking and hiking and playing with your dog and stuff. So it's cool to get your perspectives on this, but you're just very eloquent with this, and that's got to give a lot of folks out there comfort. So I want to remind everybody that her website's located down below. Please reach out, which is unbelievable. What do you think are the next steps for anybody that may be feeling like they're encountering something like this? Do you have any immediate sort of play the color game, get yourself out of where you're at? Or do you have any advice or tips or anything like that?
anyone who's encountering a dark night.
Yeah, just coming up on something real dark. And it doesn't even have to be
Yeah.
what we would refer to as the heavy shit, because the heavy shit
Yeah.
occurs because you haven't been listening the whole time, right? And so is there any patterns that you would allow maybe folks the insight of before it gets to this point, or whenever they hit this inevitable vulnerable point for them astrologically, because we all do, guys.
Yeah.
Reach out to an astrologer, find out when your Pluto square and all that are.
Yes.
But any of that to help navigate, maybe circumvent a little,
Definitely.
because they could ride this out a little easier. It could be nothing for them.
It could be a lot easier, maybe. Mine haven't been, but
I'm
but
curious if
let's
some of
say
the
in
advice
theory.
we give actually makes somebody go, I don't see what the big deal is.
Totally.
I surfed
Yeah,
right through it
please
naked
let
and
us
had a
know.
great time. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, report back on your dark night
right
experience.
in. Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I had this group of women around me. It doesn't have to be women. It could be anybody, people that you can show up, who have your back, who aren't going to judge you for, basically ugly crying on the phone or ranting and raving or whatever the thing is that you need in the moment. So, there is a thing called a safety plan, like psychologically, and I've never done one. I have a friend who even last summer was like, can you do a safety plan? And I was like, no, I'm not doing one. But it's essentially like, when it gets this bad and the thoughts are this, I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to text somebody. I'm going to call the crisis line. I'm going to know what the crisis line number is, whatever. And so that's kind of like emergency triage for I'm about to kill myself. But like, if we want to zoom out a little bit of just like the passage and like what could make it a little bit easier, having time and space to be with what is, right? And that's really hard if you work 2 jobs, or you're hustling to make ends meet, or you've got a family that you have to take care of, etc. But how can you create, even if it's 15 minutes a day, that you go in the bathroom and you say, I have terrible diarrhea, everybody, leave me alone.
Works every time.
And you have your journal and you bring a candle to make it, make them feel like that's really what's happening.
Absolutely.
But you're lighting a candle and you're saying, like, dear God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe, Nature, whatever it is, like I surrender myself to you in this process. I only have 15 minutes, but I'm going to surrender in these 15 minutes. And I'm going to cry and I'm going to wail, or I'm going to write down every dark thought that I have. And then I'm going to crumple it up and flush it so that nobody sees my thought, like whatever you have to do. I don't, if you have people that you don't want, around you that you don't want seeing these words, especially kids, that would be really terrifying if your kid found something that you were writing about. So just keep that in mind, but make a little bit of space for yourself where you're going to let yourself descend and literally set a timer so that you can get out of it. Because, what you're talking about is we do habituate to these darker states of being. And then it makes getting out of it that much freaking harder because we've become addicted, essentially biochemically addicted to this state of being.
Nailed it.
And so make space for it. Have people around you. Dialogue with the parts of yourself that are trying desperately to get your attention, like what you said. Mm-hmm. There was that part of you, that younger part of you that was like, yo, you abandoned me and I am pissed as hell at you. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to torture you until you look at me and talk to me and make right by me. And I see your guitar back there. And it's just like 2 of them. Exactly. And so I find therapy is great. Therapy is really useful. Therapy is necessary in certain situations. Therapy is not perfect for a lot of things. I think energy healing is like the best way to go personally. However, internal family systems, parts work can be so profoundly useful during these times because that dark heaviness is essentially that message from the abyss, that part that whatever part of ourselves, and it even could be our higher self. It could be another dimension, like a dimensional self. It doesn't even have to be you as a 5-year-old and all the blah, blah, blah trauma that you had. It can be so many different things, but there's a part of you that's in that dark place that is trying desperately to get your attention. How can you work with that part? How can you give it space at the table and say, I'm here, I'm listening. I realize I have abandoned you over the last X number of decades, and I am so sorry. and I'm here right now. And that part is probably going to flip you the bird and say, like, I don't trust you. And you're going to have to show up again and again and again and again and say, I'm so sorry. I'm here. I mean it this time. I'm not leaving you again. I promise. And that's it. I mean, sometimes over this last, like, I don't know, handful, like half a year or something, like no one sees it, but I'm walking around with my 18-month-old right here. She's on my hip. I'm holding her. We don't say anything. I just take her around with me on my day because she is like needs to be held. She needs to be comforted because she didn't get what she needed at that time. And so she got exiled. And she learned that her needs were not okay and that they also would never be met. But guess what? That's not true. They can be met, just not by my mom.
And what a trip that is, right? You have this faith, you have this trust, you have this example of what we're told is unconditional love because that's forced on you. Hey, your mom is the example of unconditional love, just like God is, right? And he murdered a bunch of people in the Bible, if memory serves, a bunch of babies too, if memory serves. And so it's interesting, this example of what we have called unconditional love. And really, you're the one that has it because you've never received it. And so again, the idea is there's no one coming to save you. There's no one really going to present this to you. You will have hopefully some opportunities at mirrors of that in your life. I can say Mary is one of the probably example I have of how I'm able to show myself unconditional love is because of what that woman shows me as an example in my life. And it's been incredible, honestly. And so, yes, what I will do constantly is bring my little 5-year-old right here with me because that was my sort of time period where it started there. But also my adolescent time, whatever, when I moved out of the house, the 20, all of these things, they're all here now together. We're all hanging out. We all see, we're pumped. We all think my wife is hot and cool and fucking sweet and all those things. Everything we got, dog is dope. Everybody, I get to talk to cool shit people. They send me cool things all the time. I read do art and music. Everything is like really coming together and in a free place. And this is what's so important. So I just got this thought as we're sitting here that there are a lot of people out here hearing us speak about this. So how we are, and they don't feel so alone. I just sort of got this relief from a lot of folks out there sitting, just going, holy shit, I'm feeling some of this and they are too. And look at the way they're talking about this. Guys, yeah, you're not fucking crazy. Okay. It's the well-adjusted sick society that's crazy. That's the nonsense.
Totally.
It's an inverted reality. And you and I are in the afterthought here. I'm going to go off on we're going to discuss eyeballs and talk about that and vision and how you perceive things. And it's going to tie into light beings and aliens and all kinds of stuff. So stick around for that, guys. Beautiful way to support your favorite show. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So what do you feel is what are you most proud of about yourself moving through this and where you are now?
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that question.
Yeah, I'm hitting you in the worth. You got to talk about yourself and how proud you and self-love. You got to drop a little of that on yourself and all of us.
So, yeah. Okay. So on that eclipse day when Hubs announced that he was leaving, it became clear again that I had not been loving myself as much as I espoused other people should love themselves, because this is what I do, is I really help people work on self-compassion, self-acceptance, self-awareness, self-love. And that leads into this unconditional love and just how much work I had to do in that arena. I promised myself I would stay sober through this passage and not even California sober, like sober, like all the way sober.
Hardcore girl.
I know, I'm so straight edge. But I did. And I've had a couple of drinks here and there. I use THC sometimes to help me sleep. So I'm not like super perfect, but I made a commitment that I was not going to numb out and I was not going to fill myself with empty comforts. I watched like 2 movies in the last 3 years, maybe 3 movies in the last 3 years. Like I made such a commitment to be really present to my experience in a way that I had never had the opportunity to be before. And that's in part because of my codependency bootcamp training as a kid. I'm constantly attuned to everybody else's needs and what they want and what they need. And so I've lived alone this whole time. I haven't, sought out the comfort of, sex partners or whatever, or any of that stuff, because I just wanted to be with me. I didn't really want to be with me, but I needed to figure out what I was missing in terms of not being with me for all of those years, for the basically 5 decades of my life where I tended everybody else's shit. And it was like, I'm going to tend my shit right now. And have I been perfect? No. Has it been lonely as hell? Yes. But I'm actually really proud now that I look back. And it took 2.5 years to come through the worst part of that divorce grief. 2.5 years. But I did it. And I did it sober. And I did it in integrity. So I'm proud of that. And I'm learning stuff about myself. And I am super not perfect. Like, still get a lot of stuff wrong, but I'm just like, okay, I have more growth to do in this arena. Cool.
Can we admit that the definition of perfect is silly and unattainable
totally.
and
It's
fucking
completely
dumb
ridiculous.
and wrong? Okay, so to say then,
Super
if I
bad.
may reach back just in the conversation a little bit here and grab that word perfect where you put not in front of it. Can we just go ahead and drop the not off of it? I'm perfect because I'm growing and evolving and willing to learn and be self-aware and be kind
Exactly.
while I'm at it.
Right. So see, I can still see the perfection in you and everyone else, but I'm not willing to give my own self that same perfection.
Well, let me mirror it back to you that you are here. You have been there. You've been perfect for a long time. And let any
Right.
version of you that thought that in the past, go ahead and update that in their energetic bank. You know, reinterpret all those memories, right? Because you
Yeah.
are. I mean, that's the definition of perfect. You're growing, you're learning, you're changing. And despite all of that, you're kind. And this is the thing. It's like kindness is the highest mark of intelligence because you've got a lot of reason to just tell everybody, fuck off, be selfish, not share, all of these things, be defensive. And that's our path, right? We see that that is the more promoted path, but that is not the one you chose. It is the one less walked in the woods. And that has made all the difference, right? And it's just, again, beautiful what you're able to offer and share here. I just love you dearly. I just, this is just so powerful what you're talking about here. Let's talk about what gets you up out of bed every morning. Then you and I are going to take a little break here and then come back and just smash this afterthought and blow some more minds. Does that sound good?
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good. Yeah.
I want to remind the audience before we do that all the ways to find you are located down below. And just thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being you, for showing up, for doing this shit, and for being such a rock star through this. Like, what an awesome role model you are. You're way cooler than any of the fucking Kardashians or any other dumb shit that they're trying to put in front of people. And I think that's really what's going on too. They put dumb shit in front of you so that you figure out that it's dumb, and then you go, oh God, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. That's the whole thing. And then they instead have posters of you in little girls' bedrooms. You know, you're all hanging out, you know. It's a motorcycle and a machine gun or some shit. I don't know, with a
Totally.
falcon on your arm. Yeah.
Yeah, with my purple hair. Falcon for sure. Definitely. Like, if anyone out there is listening, anyone out there listening can give me a falconer experience, I am like so down.
I think I know a falconer actually. Let me marinate on that. But yes,
Yeah.
please, anybody write in because you can't just have one falconer experience, right? I would think that you'd want a subjective run of.
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap here, just let us know. You'll get the last word on this. What gets you out of bed every morning and keeps you moving forward?
Oh my God. Honestly, if I want to be super, super transparent, it's been hard to get out of bed lately. But what does get me out of bed is that I have a beautiful, sweet dog who needs to go poop in the backyard every morning, like clockwork. And I love my morning walk with her and just being out in nature. This time of year, I have to say, I think maybe it was a little bit of the winter doldrums, and I was like, I don't want to face the day. Like, and I'm completely redefining who I am still in the world, and that also includes my business. And that's been really weighing on me for a while, and I just kind of had a little bit of a breakthrough recently. The weather's been incredible, and I just feel like, okay, like I've been through a season. And that's okay. But she gets me out of bed. The thought of, moving, like, I know that there's something on the horizon for me, and it's beautiful as fuck. And I don't know when I'm going to reach it, and I don't know what it is. But every day that I get up, I'm one day closer to it. And I just have to have that faith and that trust. Like, this day might not be my ideal day, although this is a great day because I am loving this conversation with you so much. But so I'm going to go slog it out at my part-time job today and, have like 6 Zoom meetings in 8 hours and just like be exhausted, like eyes crossing at the end of the day. But one, I know that I've helped some people. I've shared some love. And, you know, I get to see what tomorrow brings, and every day is bringing me closer to something that spirit, cosmos, God, goddess, universe has in store for me. It's beyond my pay grade to understand what it is right now.